Tonight, as you settle into your favorite spot, maybe your bed feels a little too quiet, or the clock seems to tick louder than usual. I want you to know you're not alone. Across this wide country, countless others are awake with you, listening for something soft to carry them through the night. Insomnia is something many people experience, especially as the years go by. Bodies change, sleep patterns shift, and sometimes the night feels longer than it should. But this moment isn't a failure and it isn't a test. It's simply a pause in your journey, a chance to rest your thoughts. Before we begin our story tonight, try a few small things to help your body unwind. Lower the lights in your room until only a gentle glow remains. Let the shadows soften the corners. Turn the volume of this audio to a calm, comfortable level, just enough to hear my voice without straining. If you have your phone or tablet beside you, place it a little farther away. Let it rest while you do. If your shoulders feel tight, roll them back gently. If your ankles or calves ache from the day, give them a light massage. Sometimes the simple act of rubbing warmth into your hands or your neck can tell your body it's safe. Take a slow breath in through your nose and release it through your mouth. Feel your chest rise and fall like a quiet tide against a sandy shore. You've carried so much through your life, decades of memories, laughter, perhaps heartache, and countless little victories. You've faced nights like this before and always found your way through them. Tonight is no different. Let's turn this long evening into a gentle walk through a summer memory. While you listen, you don't need to stay alert or follow every detail. Let the words drift past like fireflies across a dusky lawn. If you find your eyes growing heavy, that's perfect. That's exactly what this story is here for, to hold you until sleep arrives. And if you find comfort here tonight, consider quietly following this channel. It's not an obligation or a chore. It's just a way to make sure you always have a gentle voice waiting when the night feels too long. So now, with the house settling into silence, with the faint hum of the world outside your window, let's step together into a front yard on a warm evening long ago. The sun is just dipping below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and lavender. A soft breeze carries the scent of cut grass and honeysuckle. Somewhere, a radio hums a distant melody and a porch light flickers on. Close your eyes if you'd like, and imagine yourself there, barefoot in the cool grass, safe, unhurried, ready to listen to a story that belongs to summer and to memory, ready to let the night cradle you until sleep comes quietly like an old friend. The evening settles over a quiet neighborhood, a place where the front yard still holds stories in the rustle of leaves and the hum of cicadas. The last colors of sunset stretch lazily across the sky, streaks of amber, rose, and gentle lavender melting into the blue. It's that fleeting moment between day and night, when the world exhales and everything feels suspended. A narrow gravel path leads from the porch steps down to the gate, its stones warmed by the day but now cooling under the touch of night air. Along the edges of the yard, tall sunflowers bow their heads slightly, their golden faces growing sleepy under the fading light. The white fence, though chipped and weathered, stands like a trusted friend, familiar, dependable, holding memories of children leaning against it to watch fireflies. Somewhere nearby, a dog gives a single lazy bark, as if to announce that all is well before curling back into its dreams. The air carries the scent of fresh-cut grass mixed with honeysuckle, a perfume that belongs to warm evenings and long-ago summers. A faint breeze picks up, stirring the leaves of the oak tree at the corner of the yard. The branches sway gently, casting moving shadows across the porch steps. On the porch itself, an old swing creaks softly, its ropes worn smooth from years of gentle rocking. A faded quilt lies folded on the arm of a wooden chair, waiting for someone to drape it over their knees once the coolness deepens. The screen door behind it rattles slightly when the wind shifts. A sound so familiar it feels like part of the heartbeat of the house. Farther out, beyond the fence, the world grows hazy and soft. Streetlights flicker on one by one, tiny suns along the quiet road. Their glow catches in the dust that hangs briefly in the air, turning each mote into a spark. A distant radio hums, a neighbor's voice in music form playing some timeless tune that has drifted through countless front yards like this. In the far distance, the low whistle of a passing train echoes across the fields. It is a lonely sound, yet somehow comforting. A reminder that there is movement beyond the sleepy town, that life goes on even as this small corner of the world grows still. The crickets begin their steady chorus, a symphony of small lives hidden in the grass. They're joined by the occasional chirp of a tree frog from the damp edges near the ditch. The rhythm of their song is unhurried, as though urging you to slow your own heartbeat to match their gentle pace. In the soft glow of the porch light, the paint on the railing looks a little more worn, but its flaws only make it more beautiful. It has weathered storms, blazing sun, and countless evenings just like this. It has been leaned on by elbows during conversations about dreams, worries, and jokes. It has felt the weight of hands waving goodbye, and the brush of fingertips greeting a returning friend. The mailbox at the edge of the yard catches a glimmer of the setting sun. For years it has held letters, news of distant relatives, postcards from vacations, bills that once felt urgent, and envelopes carrying words that made hearts leap. It stands as a quiet sentinel of connection. Somewhere a wind chime sings, a soft, melodic tinkle carried on the breeze. Its notes are gentle and irregular, the kind of sound that can lull a restless mind. You can almost imagine someone long ago sitting here, eyes half closed, listening to that very same music of glass and wind. The front yard feels alive yet calm. It holds the memories of games played under its trees, of summer lemonade shared on the porch, of neighbors stopping by just to say hello. It is a place that has witnessed beginnings and endings, laughter and tears, and all the quiet, ordinary moments that make up a life. Now, as the darkness deepens, the first stars begin to pierce the indigo sky. Tiny silver points, familiar and eternal. They have watched over this yard for generations, reminding anyone who looks up that they are part of something vast, timeless, and comforting. The yard waits, as if holding its breath for the story that is about to unfold. It's here in this soft evening light that memories will begin to stir, carried on the breeze, whispered through the leaves. And in this waiting silence, you can almost feel the presence of every summer evening you've ever known, every quiet night that once wrapped you in its gentle arms. The porch swing moves ever so slightly, nudged by the night air. Its gentle creak is like an old lullaby, familiar, patient, unhurried. The boards beneath it are smooth in some places, splintered in others, wearing the history of countless bare feet that padded across them through the years. A mason jar, still holding the faint sweetness of iced tea, rests on a small side table. Beads of condensation cling to the glass, catching the light like tiny jewels. A lantern glows faintly on the porch rail. Its flame dances inside the glass, casting wobbly shadows on the siding of the house. The shadows sway in rhythm with the breeze, making the wooden boards seem almost alive. Somewhere in the distance, a screen door claps shut, its sound muffled by the thick summer air, followed by soft laughter drifting over from a neighbor's yard. The air is rich with the scent of earth after a warm day, mixed with the faint aroma of something baking, a pie cooling on someone's kitchen windowsill, perhaps. A single moth flutters toward the porch light, its delicate wings catching the glow for just a moment before disappearing into the darkness again. The night feels wide and generous, as if it's holding every sound and memory within its vast, star-dotted expanse. Beyond the front yard, the road stretches out like a quiet ribbon, its gravel softly crunching under the occasional passing car. But for now, there's little movement, just the distant hum of a tractor finishing its work in the fields and the faint murmur of the radio next door. The melody is familiar, a tune that's been played on front porches for decades. Inside the house, a clock ticks steadily, its sound a calm reminder that time moves forward no matter how still the evening seems. The windows are open just enough to let the night air wander through the rooms, carrying with it the music of crickets and frogs. The curtains sway slightly, like they're breathing with the rhythm of the world outside. The front yard itself seems to remember every gathering, every whispered conversation under the stars. It remembers children chasing each other barefoot across the grass. It remembers chairs pulled close together during long summer talks. It remembers the way a quiet sigh can carry so much, floating off into the night like a secret. On the porch steps, a small pot of geraniums leans toward the last bit of lingering light. Their red blossoms are vivid even in the dusk, a cheerful splash of color against the gray wood. Nearby, a watering can sits abandoned, a drop of water clinging to its spout like a tiny crystal. It's the kind of scene that makes you pause without realizing why. Simple, unremarkable, yet full of quiet beauty. As the evening deepens, fireflies begin their silent dance across the yard. Tiny flickers of light punctuate the darkness, appearing and vanishing as if they're carrying messages between this world and another. Their glow is soft and playful, a reminder of childhood summers when catching fireflies felt like catching magic itself. Far off, thunder rumbles faintly. Not a threat, but a distant murmur that adds depth to the night. The air remains warm, but a subtle coolness begins to creep in, brushing across skin like a friendly whisper. A cat slinks along the fence line, its tail a graceful question mark in the shadows. It pauses, ears flicking, then disappears beneath the hydrangeas with a silent leap. The house, the yard, the entire evening seems to hold its own heartbeat. It's a steady, comforting rhythm that reassures anyone who listens closely enough. The front yard is not just grass and wood and air. It's a place where stories have unfolded for generations, where voices have risen in laughter, softened in sorrow, and lingered in love. Now, as the stars multiply overhead, the scene is set. The world beyond the gate fades into the background, leaving only this quiet, glowing yard. A stage for memories to stir, for a story to gently unfold. And as the porch light casts its halo on the steps, you can almost sense that something tender is about to be remembered here tonight. Something worth holding close as sleep begins to call. The evening deepened, and the porch swing creaked again, this time under the weight of two figures settling into its embrace. Martha, her silver hair catching the last threads of twilight, leaned back with a sigh that sounded like release. Beside her, Samuel adjusted the cushion beneath him, his hands calloused from decades of work that had shaped the yard around them. They had lived on this stretch of gravel road for more than 40 years, and yet every dusk like this still felt like a small miracle. "I can't remember the last time we just sat out here," Martha said softly, her eyes tracked Firefly's path across the yard. Samuel chuckled, the sound warm and gravelly. "Oh, I reckon it was spring before the tomatoes took all my attention." The memory of summers past hung in the air, thick as the scent of honeysuckle drifting from the fence line. The porch had borne witness to so many moments. The first night they'd come home married, the afternoons they'd rocked crying babies to sleep, the evenings they'd watched storms roll in across the fields. Tonight felt like all of those memories had gathered silently around them, breathing with the night. Martha reached for Samuel's hand, her fingers finding the familiar grooves of his knuckles. "Do you remember the summer after Clara left for college?" she asked. "We thought the house was too quiet." Samuel nodded, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "And then we started hearing all the little sounds we'd ignored before. Crickets, the barn owl, even the boards settling under their own weight." The cricket's song swelled now, as if on cue, filling the pauses between their words. In the distance, a coyote yipped, a lonely sound that somehow made the night feel even more intimate. They sat in silence for a moment, letting the world speak, letting the sky fill with stars that blinked on one by one like memories returning. Martha broke the quiet with a laugh so small it was almost a sigh. "I found an old letter in the attic today, one you wrote me before we were married." Samuel's eyebrows lifted, his eyes brightening with curiosity. "Did I say anything worth remembering?" "You said you couldn't wait to build a life with me," Martha said. "That you imagined us here on this porch watching fireflies when our hair turned gray." She squeezed his hand gently. "Seems you knew what you were talking about." Samuel's throat tightened, and he swallowed before answering. "I guess I did." A breeze stirred the geraniums on the steps, their red blossoms nodding like witnesses to the quiet vow being reaffirmed. The lantern's flame flickered, sending a new wave of shadows dancing across the porch boards. The sound of footsteps crunching gravel broke the moment, soft, hesitant steps coming up the drive. It was Clara, their daughter, back home for a weekend visit. She paused at the edge of the yard, watching her parents for a heartbeat before stepping into the lantern's glow. "Am I interrupting?" she asked, her voice a mix of apology and nostalgia. "Never," Martha said, her face lighting up. "Come sit with us." Clara joined them on the porch swing, squeezing herself between her parents like she had done 1,000 times as a child. The swing groaned under the weight but held firm, swaying gently as if relieved to be whole again. "I missed this," Clara whispered. "The crickets, the fireflies, even that old swing's creak." Samuel chuckled. "Some things don't change, sweetheart." They rocked together for a while, our 3 heartbeats syncing with the rhythm of the evening. Clara began to talk about her life in the city. The noise, the rush, the feeling that time was always slipping away. Her words tumbled out in fragments like pebbles rolling down a hill. Martha listened with the patience only a mother could hold, nodding, murmuring, letting her daughter empty the weight she'd been carrying. "You don't have to have it all figured out yet," Martha said gently when Clara paused. "Some answers only come when you stop chasing them." Clara leaned her head on her mother's shoulder, tears glinting in her eyes. "It's just, sometimes I feel like I'm missing everything important." Samuel reached over, resting his weathered hand on hers. "Then don't miss this," he said softly, gesturing to the yard, the fireflies, the stars. "This is important too." The 3 of them sat there, the night cradling them like a favorite storybook. Time slowed, stretched, and for a few breaths it felt infinite. The night grew deeper, the sky now a velvet canvas scattered with stars. A faint breeze carried the sweet smell of cut grass, and the porch swing swayed ever so slightly under the weight of 3 generations, parents and daughter, bound together by memories that spanned decades. Clara tilted her head back, watching a shooting star streak silently across the heavens. "I used to wish on those," she murmured, a small, wistful smile crossing her face. Martha reached up, brushing a strand of silver hair from her daughter's cheek. What did you wish for? Clara's laugh was quiet, almost embarrassed. Back then, a pony mostly. Later, I wished for a bigger world, more places, more chances, more people to meet. But now, she trailed off, her eyes dropping to the porch floorboards. Now I think I just wish for time to slow down. Samuel's hand tightened gently around hers. It doesn't, not for anyone, he said softly. But these moments, these little ordinary nights, they stretch time if you let them. The sound of a train horn carried faintly on the breeze, miles away but somehow part of their shared moment. Its low, mournful call blended with a chorus of crickets, a song of distance and belonging. Clara let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Sometimes the city feels like it's swallowing me whole, she admitted. Everything's loud and fast, and everyone's chasing something. I thought that's what I wanted, but lately... She stopped herself, words tangled in emotion. Martha rubbed her daughter's back, slow circles like she had done when Clara was a child. It's okay to want different things at different times, she whispered. You don't have to stay the same version of yourself forever. The lantern on the porch flickered, its light catching Samuel's thoughtful expression. Your granddad used to say, he began, that life isn't about the big leaps forward. It's about the small steps you take back to the people and places that make you whole. Clara smiled faintly. I wish I'd listened more when Grandpa told stories. You were listening, Martha said. Even if you didn't know it then, those stories shaped you. For a while, they simply sat, no one filling the silence, no one rushing to make the night anything more than what it already was. The swing rocked gently, the world narrowed to the soft creak of the chains, the smell of earth cooling after a warm day, and the comfort of shared presence. The porch light cast a warm glow on the yard, revealing tiny details, a moth hovering near the lantern, the outline of a forgotten watering can by the steps, the way the roses along the fence bowed slightly under the weight of dew. Samuel broke the quiet again, his voice steady but tinged with something deeper. Do you remember when we nearly sold this place? Martha's head turned sharply toward him, a small gasp escaping her lips. We never told Clara that. He smiled, sheepish. We thought about it years ago after the factory closed when things got tight. But then one evening we sat out here just like this, and the fireflies came out. You looked at me and said, we can't leave this behind, and you were right. Clara's eyes widened, a touch of surprise mixing with affection. I had no idea. Martha squeezed Samuel's arm, her voice soft but firm. Sometimes the things that seem small, like a yard or a swing or a summer night, are the things that hold a family together. A chorus of frogs began croaking near the pond, their rhythmic voices adding another layer to the night's song. Clara listened, her heart settling into the steady beat of home. She felt the weight she'd carried, ambitions, expectations, deadlines, loosen just a little. The porch swing swayed again, a subtle reminder of all the nights it had carried their worries, their laughter, and their dreams. Samuel's gaze drifted toward the horizon, where the sky still held the faintest echo of sunset's glow. This yard has seen everything, he said quietly. First steps, first heartbreaks, long summers of waiting, winters that felt too long, and somehow we're still here. Clara leaned into her mother, then into her father, her voice almost a whisper. I think I understand now why you stayed. Martha kissed the top of her daughter's head. And maybe one day you'll have a place of your own that feels like this. A soft wind swept through the trees, rustling the leaves like applause for the small but powerful truths being spoken. The night seemed to hum with approval, as if the universe itself was leaning closer to listen. The train horn sounded again, farther away now, and fading into the distance. Clara thought of the city waiting for her, its lights, its endless motion. But for tonight, she didn't have to go back yet. For tonight, the yard, the porch, the stars, and the steady creak of the swing were enough. And in that quiet, under the vast sky, 3 people sat together, bound not by time or distance, but by the enduring thread of love woven through 1,000 evenings like this one. The summer night deepened into a velvet quiet, the kind of silence that makes every small sound, the click of a beetle, the rustle of grass, feel magnified and sacred. Clara leaned back against the porch swing, her bare feet brushing the wooden floorboards as she swayed ever so slightly. Above her, the stars burned like old memories, distant but enduring, and the moon spilled a gentle silver light across the yard. Samuel stood up slowly, stretching his stiff shoulders before descending the porch steps. He walked out into the yard, the grass cool beneath his soles, and turned back toward the house. From here, the porch looked like something out of a painting, his wife Martha and daughter Clara outlined in warm light, their faces softened by shadow and the glow of the lantern. "I almost left once," he said, his voice carrying across the yard. His words startled the quiet, but he didn't sound regretful, just honest. Martha frowned slightly. "Left what?" "This," he said, sweeping a hand toward the house, the swing, the roses nodding in the breeze. "The yard, the quiet, the life we built here. When I was younger, there were moments I thought I wanted more. Bigger cities, louder places, something that would prove I'd made it." Clara watched her father, her chest tightening. "What stopped you?" Samuel smiled faintly. "A night like this one. I was out here, much like now, and the world felt small and huge all at once. I realized the more I reached outward, the more I risked losing the things that already made me whole." The wind whispered through the oak branches, carrying with it the faint scent of honeysuckle. Martha stood and joined him in the yard, slipping her hand into his. Their silhouettes merged in the moonlight, 2 figures shaped by years of shared laughter and hardship. Clara rose too, stepping off the porch and into the grass. The 3 of them stood beneath the stars, the yard stretching out around them like a quiet universe. For a moment, the past and the present seemed to overlap. Clara could almost hear her childhood laughter echoing from the trees, see the younger versions of her parents dancing barefoot in the summer grass. Martha broke the spell with a soft laugh. "Remember when Clara and the neighbor kids turned the hose on and made a mudslide across this very lawn?" Clara groaned, covering her face with her hands. "I thought you'd forgotten that." "Oh, never," Samuel chuckled. "You tracked mud into the kitchen and Martha nearly slipped trying to catch you. We should have been angry, but..." He shook his head, the memory bright in his mind. It was one of the best afternoons we ever had. The sound of their laughter drifted into the night, blending with the chirping crickets. It felt like the yard itself was listening, holding their stories like treasures. After a while, they settled back onto the porch swing. The lantern flickered again, its light dancing across their faces. Clara pulled a soft quilt over her lap, even though the air was still warm. It was less about the chill and more about the comfort of familiar rituals. "Do you ever worry," Clara said quietly, "that someday all of this will just fade?" Martha reached over, squeezing her hand. "Memories don't fade," she said. "They settle. They become part of you, even when you're far away." Samuel nodded. "Places change, people grow older, but the love, the moments, that's what lasts." The train horn sounded once more in the distance, this time softer, like an echo of a past that was still alive somewhere beyond the hills. Clara closed her eyes, letting the sound wash over her. The yard seemed to hum with life. The roses nodding under invisible fingers of wind, the porch swing creaking gently, the stars whispering secrets older than any of them. It was a quiet crescendo, a reminder that even the simplest nights could hold the greatest weight. And then, almost imperceptibly, the night began to settle. The air cooled just enough to raise a light shiver on Clara's arms, and the chorus of frogs and crickets grew steady and soothing. The world outside their small porch might still be rushing, loud and impatient, but here in this yard, on this swing with these people, time slowed, memories mingled with the present, and everything felt whole. The night wrapped itself around the little house like a familiar quilt, its edges soft and comforting. The front yard glowed faintly under the moonlight, the roses shimmering as though dusted with silver. Somewhere far off, a dog barked once, then silence returned, deep and tender. Clara traced the rim of her teacup with a fingertip, the ceramic cool now that the tea had gone cold. She felt a gentle weight in her chest, not sadness, but a sweet ache like the sound of an old song. Her parents' voices mingled quietly on the porch, exchanging small stories of neighbors and gardens, of weather and chores. Every word seemed precious tonight, every pause meaningful. She thought about the summers of her childhood, the barefoot evenings catching fireflies, the long bike rides down dusty roads, the way the front yard seemed endless under a child's gaze. In those memories, her parents were ageless, strong and steady as the oaks. The porch swing creaked softly now, and the memory overlapped perfectly with the present moment. Samuel stood and walked back into the yard, the grass brushing his ankles. He bent to pick up a fallen rose petal, holding it in his palm as though it were a fragile treasure. "You know," he said, looking toward the porch, "these roses came from a cutting your grandfather planted decades ago. They've been blooming here longer than any of us have lived in this house." Martha's eyes softened, and Clara felt a lump rise in her throat. The yard wasn't just a patch of grass, it was a living album, holding pieces of everyone who had ever passed through it. The air shifted slightly, carrying the faint hum of a passing car far down the road. It reminded Clara of nights when she'd sneak peeks through her bedroom curtains, wondering where people were traveling at such an hour, imagining grand adventures beyond their quiet town. The lantern on the porch guttered, then steadied, casting a warm halo around their faces. Clara leaned back into the swing, letting the quilt slip from her shoulders. She didn't need it anymore. The night itself felt like a blanket. "Do you remember the summer the fair came through town?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Martha chuckled, the sound soft and melodic. "How could I forget? You won that ridiculous stuffed bear the size of a small child. It took up half your bed for years." Samuel laughed quietly, shaking his head. "I carried that thing for blocks. People thought we had adopted a second child." Their laughter faded into the chorus of crickets, leaving behind a serene silence. Clara felt her eyelids growing heavier with each passing moment. The yard seemed to breathe with them, the trees swaying gently as though nodding in agreement. Somewhere in the distance, a screen door creaked shut, and the faint, comforting smell of someone's wood smoke drifted on the breeze. The world outside their yard kept moving, but here was stillness, a quiet pocket of time that felt infinite. Martha took Samuel's hand, her thumb brushing over the rough skin worn by years of work and love. "We're lucky," she said softly. He squeezed her hand, his voice warm. "We are." Clara watched them, her chest swelling with gratitude. She realized that even as the world changed, technology, cities, the pace of life, there would always be places like this. Small yards where the sky felt close, porches where stories lingered, nights where everything slowed enough for you to remember what mattered. A single firefly blinked near the roses, then another, until the yard seemed sprinkled with tiny golden stars. The sight tugged at Clara's heart, a reminder that magic often hides in plain sight, waiting for quiet moments like this. The porch swing rocked gently, its creak blending with the lullaby of the night. Samuel's voice broke the silence once more, deep and steady. One day, Clara, you'll have your own porch, your own yard, and I hope on a night like this you'll remember, this isn't just our story, it's yours too. She nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. She didn't need words, the moment was enough. The night held them all, wrapped in memory, love, and the quiet hum of life continuing. As the moon climbed higher, the lantern's glow dimmed and the stars shone brighter. The world outside their yard seemed to fade, leaving only the front porch, the roses, and the soft rhythm of their breathing. Sleep began to tug at Clara's senses, gentle and patient. She let her head rest against the swing's cushion, her eyes drifting shut. Somewhere, Samuel and Martha's voices blurred into the symphony of crickets, a familiar song that promised she was safe, loved, and exactly where she needed to be. The yard exhaled, the roses swayed, and the night at last grew perfectly still. And now, as the stars settled deeper into the velvet sky and the crickets hummed their gentle lullaby, our evening together draws to a close. You've spent this time walking through a quiet front yard, hearing the soft creak of the porch swing, feeling the cool grass under your feet, and remembering that even the smallest places can hold entire worlds of love and memory. Nights like these remind us that peace isn't far away. It's right here, within reach, in the tender corners of your own story. As you drift closer to sleep, take a slow, easy breath in and let it out. Imagine the roses in that yard swaying ever so slightly, their petals catching the moonlight, and the lantern on the porch glowing faintly like a guardian light. These images will stay with you, holding you until morning comes. If your eyes are heavy now, let them close fully. You don't need to hold on to every detail of the story. It has already done its work, quieting your mind, softening your heart, and reminding you of the gentle beauty woven into everyday life. Sleep is not something to chase. It's a friend that arrives when you allow yourself to rest. Before you slip completely into dreams, I want to thank you for spending part of your night here. For trusting this small corner of the internet to keep you company when the world outside felt a little too still. Your presence matters. Even if you're listening in the dark, half asleep, you're part of a community of hearts searching for calm and connection. If tonight's story brought you comfort or stirred a memory you hadn't visited in a while, I'd love for you to share it. When you're ready, tomorrow or the next day, leave a gentle comment below. Tell us what kind of memories soothe you, or what kind of stories you'd like to hear in the future. Your words might help someone else who finds themselves awake at 2 a.m., searching for a kind voice. And if you'd like to return to these quiet evenings again, consider following or subscribing to this channel. That way, whenever the night feels too long, you'll know where to find another story, another porch swing, another summer breeze to carry you toward rest. For now, though, release the day. Let your shoulders sink a little deeper into the mattress and trust that the night will hold you. The front yard, the roses, the creak of the swing, they're all waiting just beyond your dreams, ready to welcome you back whenever you need them. Good night, sleep well, and may tomorrow greet you with warmth and light. Thank you.